Hello everyone, welcome to your grammar class. Today we're recording a video on Unit 4 and this is going to be the second video for this unit. In a previous video we covered the sentence structure, identifying different types of clauses according to coordination and subordination of clauses. We also included information about uh, different types of sentences depending on the structure they had. Okay, today we're going to continue covering contents about the sentence structure, but today we'll be focusing on different types of clauses within the sentence. So we'll be covering the sentences according to their grammar or grammatical function, and we have, in this sense, we have clauses according to the different parts of speech, including adjectives, nouns, and adverbs. So, same as we have words that modify nouns and phrases that modify nouns, we also have complete clauses modifying nouns. So we'll be covering this type of clauses that are adjective clauses. The same thing happens with the verbs and adjectives and adverbs that are modified by adverb clauses and noun clauses that take the place of a noun, uh, both as a subject or an object. Okay, that of the kinds of sentences we have already covered, and the last part, which is the short introduction of punctuation and connectors, adding connectors, we're going to see sentence fragments and run-on sentences. Okay, let's begin right away. All right, we're going to begin with the adjective clauses. Uh, the adjective clauses are subordinate clauses that modify a noun or a pronoun, as I have already said, and they begin with a relative pronoun. Okay, there's a list of relative pronouns here: who, whom, whose, that, which, where, or when. You see, and there's a couple of examples they provide here, just to show you how nouns are being affected by these type of clauses. Athletes who performed in the Olympics must spend years in training. This is one of the examples they provide in the book. Athletes is the noun, and the clause who perform in the Olympics is an adjective because they say what athletes we are talking about. Let's see the second one. Cities that host the Olympics need many athletic facilities. Cities that host the Olympics. That host the Olympics is the clause. Is a subordinate clause, is a that clause, is an adjective clause because it says what cities we are talking about. You see? One other type of adjective clause that we will see is that where the relative pronoun that is omitted. For example, the mug I use most often came from those Olympics. Instead of saying the mug that I use most often came from those Olympics. You see? Look at one example I am providing. Lori and Ziki walk to the park where Ziki always runs on place. Okay? The park where Ziki always runs on place. Park, which is a noun, or the park, we don't know what park it is until we read the subordinate clause. Okay? Even though the sentence is complete, this subordinate clause, which is an adjective, is affecting the noun park. Okay? In the book, it says that some adjective clauses are needed to make the meaning of a sentence clear. You see, and they provide some examples. Tourists who travel to the games stay in hotels. The living area that is designated for the athletes is called the Olympic Village. One more thing we can say about adjective clauses is that there are two types, okay? And we're going to see these two types of sentences. Some authors call them defining, non-defining, essential, non-essential, restrictive, and non-restrictive, but they are talking about the same thing. Okay? Sometimes these adjective clauses are not necessary to make the meaning clear. Let's move on and see other examples here. Okay? In this book, we call them essential and non-essential or unessential. Okay? Those examples I provided in the previous slide, tourists who travel to the games stayed in hotels. Who travel to the games refers to the tourists. There might be different types of tourists, right? That travel to other places, okay? That are not games. They might be to the beaches. And they also stay in hotels. Well, what type of hotels they stayed in or they stayed at? The living area that is designated for the athletes is called the Olympic Village. If I say the living area is called the Olympic Village, it might not be complete. It's not a complete thought because we don't know what living area we're talking about. If I say tourists stay in hotels, and that's something that might not be that general, but then when we say what tourists we're talking about, it might make more sense. Okay? These are necessary, so they are called essential or restrictive clauses. I provided some other examples here. If I say, for example, the man is asking to see you now, this is a clearer example for me. The man is asking to see you now. What man are you talking about? We don't know. We need an adjective that identifies this noun so that we know what man we're talking about. And in the second sentence, you can see how that clause that came here this morning, I am talking about a person that came here this morning, so we know what man we're talking about. The man that came here this morning wants to see you now. Now you see that this clause that came here this morning is identifying man. So it's necessary, it is an essential uh, clause, an essential adjective clause. Non-essential. In the book, you see a couple of examples that I would like to explore with you. The Columbia Broadcasting System, which televised the 1998 Winter Olympics, set up a website for the athletes. When you write a non-essential adjective clause, you place it in quotations, okay? Between commas. Let's keep it and see how the sentence makes sense. The Columbia Broadcasting System set up a website for the athletes. It makes sense. There's nothing missing. We are mentioning the name of the place and what they did and for whom. You see? Next example. The athletes who received thousands of messages appreciated this service. The athletes appreciated this service. Okay? It's complete. Next, millions watched the 1998 Winter Olympics, which took place in Nagano. Okay? One thing they say in the book is that when you're using A non-essential adjective clause is better to prefer which instead of that. I'll say always use which instead of that, but you can use who and whose also and where. Look at the examples I provide on the right. My desktop computer, which is a big and old machine, I'm adding a description of it. It's not necessary to say what I want to say. It's simply adding information. Takes too long to start up due to its outdated software. It is not only provided extra information, but the information is also redundant because if it has outdated software, it takes too long to start up, so the computer is old. That's something you can imply. So this subordinate adjective clause might be non-essential. Context also helps to identify essential or non-essential adjective clauses. Okay, now let's move on to other types of clauses. Same as adverbs, and now we're going to be working with adverb clauses. Same as adverbs affect nouns. Adverb clauses affect nouns also. Okay. Uh, an adverb clause is a subordinate clause that modifies a verb, an adjective, or an adverb. It tells when, where, how, why, to what extent, or under what conditions the actions are being or are taking place. You see, uh, adverb clauses begin with a subordinating conjunction, and an adverb clause can come either before or after the main clause. One difference with the adverb and adjective clauses is that adjective clauses very almost always, let's not say always, uh, follow the noun they are affecting, but adverb clauses might fit into different places within the sentence. Let's see some examples. Before winter began, I planted bulbs. The adverb clause is at the beginning, okay, and is affecting the verb planted. Before winter began, I planted bulbs. Second, bulbs usually do well if you use fertilizer. So the adverb clause tells under what conditions and modifies the adverb well. You see? Is immediately after the adverb well. Next, the flowers are beautiful because the winter was mild. Okay? The flowers are beautiful because the winter was mild. Hmm? Is affecting uh, an adjective, the adjective beautiful, and is immediately after this. But you can place it at the beginning and say, because the winter was mild, the flowers are beautiful. And it is still affecting the same adjective. You see? Look at the different types of adverb clauses we have. Same as we have adverbs of time and adverbs of place. The same function we have in clauses. So we have adverb clauses of time, adverbial clauses of place, and adverb clauses of condition. We can call them adverb or adverbial clauses, okay? And depending on the subordinating conjunctions we use, we can say we're talking about time or reason or condition. Time, when, after, before, until. Reason, because, since, as, so. Condition, if, unless, and so on. Okay, you can uh, rewind this video and see it again. See which ones you can use. And there are some other examples I provided here. Before you leave, please turn off the lights. You see that the first clause, before you leave, is an adverb clause. But what type of adverb clause? What type? It's a time because it says before. Okay? The show will start after the sun goes down. After the sun goes down is an adverb clause of time also. She acted like it was a joke. Okay? You see, it's not an adverb of time, it's an adverb of manner here. It's an adverb clause of manner. And the last example I'm providing, we canceled the trip because the weather has gotten worse. So, because is providing a reason. It is a reason. Okay? Adverb clause of reason. One other detail the book provides is that of elliptical adverb clauses uh, where you add one part of a sentence that might not feel complete, but it is included in the previous part when you say the jacinths are fragrant than the tulips are. You don't say are fragrant. You don't repeat that. Okay? And they are called elliptical adverb clauses. While I am gardening, I always take time to enjoy the flowers. While gardening, I always take the time to enjoy the flowers. So you omit part of the sentence. And I want you to look at this link that can give you access to more information on the topic. Let us move on. Okay. Now let's turn to noun clauses. And noun clauses, as I said before, the whole clause functions as a noun and they can take the place of a subject, they can take the place of an object, either it be a direct object, an indirect object, uh, the object of a preposition. Okay, predicate nominative. A noun clause is a subordinate clause that is used as a noun within the main clause of a sentence. Okay? You can use a noun clause as a subject, a direct object, an indirect object, an object of a preposition, or a predicate nominative. You see, whatever you can learn about computers, that's a noun clause, will prove the verb useful in the workplace. You see, will prove useful in the workplace is the predicate. Whatever you can learn about computers is the subject. Noun clause as a subject. Another example. You should take whichever computer classes are offered. You can take that. One thing you can use to identify the noun clauses is uh, changing them by a pronoun. In this case, that, it, okay? You should take whichever computer classes are offered. Next, uh, the instructor gave whoever was available word processing lessons. The instructor gave word processing lessons to whichever was available. Whoever was available is an indirect object. In the previous one, you should take what you take, whichever computer classes are offered. Whichever computer classes are offered is the direct object. Next, you can get by on what you learn in this class. What you learn in this class is the object of the preposition on. As you can see, noun clauses take the place of nouns. Or they can function, is better said, they can function as nouns. And you can introduce them with these words here. One thing I want you to notice is that we can use when, where, and for adjective clauses also, for noun clauses, okay, and for adverb clauses. But uh, their what makes it clear to say if they are adverb, adjective, or nouns is what they function, their function in the sentence they appear. Okay, same as in the adjective clauses. Some words and adverb clauses, some words are also dropped off from a noun clause. I think an example here. I think computers will be even more important in the future. Okay, that has been omitted from the beginning of the sentence. I think that computers will be even more important in the future. I think computers, instead of saying I think that computers. Okay, mostly that is omitted. What I have said before, and that's a note I took here, to see if a clause is a noun clause, identify its role in the sentence. The same you do with all of them. If it is acting as a noun, it is a noun clause as opposed to an adjective clause. For example, noun clauses can operate just the same as an ordinary noun would. This means they can be the subject of a sentence, the direct object, and verb, the object of a verb, or the object of a preposition. That of the object of a verb we didn't cover here, but that you can see with infinitives. Whatever you decide to do is fine with me. Whatever you decide to do, that's the clause, is fine with me. Is a linking verb, fine with me. Fun is a predicate adjective. How you made that decision baffles me. Baffles is the verb. And how you made that decision is uh, the subordinate clause. Same with the other. You see, I remember what you said yesterday is a noun clause. Same as the others. You see, I remember what you said yesterday. I remember that. Why we chose, let's go back to the others to see if we can substitute them by the relative pronoun that. Whatever you decide to do is fine with me. That is fine with me. Same with the other. That baffles me. The other. That is none of your business. You see, you can substitute them by that. Something you cannot do with an adjective or an adverb clause. Okay, one thing I didn't cover or I didn't see in the book is the subjunctive case in noun clauses, and it has a little bit to do with the omission of the that clause of that in these clauses. The school requires that students complete all courses, but they say the school requires students to complete all courses. I asked her to help me. The manager urged his employees to provide exceptional customer service. You see, this is the way you use the subjunctive case in noun clauses. Students to complete all courses can be substituted by that. The school requires that. I asked her to I asked her that. The manager urged that or them, you see? Or this in this case, and it's also valid, not only that. Let's move on. We have some exercises here to complete, and as always, I complete the first one. Okay? In the first one, write the subordinate clause from each sentence, and then write adjective, adverb, or noun. Number one, that is not what I told the investigator. What I told the investigator is the clause and is a noun clause. That is not That. That is not this. You see? It is a noun clause that functions as a predicate nominative after the linking verb be. You see? It's a verb complement. Let's continue. Okay, we have different kinds of sentences, and these types of sentences, we might have two ways of classifying sentences. The first one is about the purpose. Um, because of the purpose, you can say that sentences are of four types that we have already covered in many other courses that I don't want to give details about now. A declarative sentence that might be negative or affirmative sentences, they make a statement. They might be negative or affirmative statements. Questions are interrogative sentences. You see, these are two types. The other two types are imperative sentences where you give a command or make a request to people. And the last one is an exclamatory sentence where you express emotion. Okay? They provide you examples in the book, and I don't think it requires more explanation. And here is an example for you, an exercise for you to complete. How fast that meteorite is moving. So it is expressing emotion. How fast this meteorite is moving. So I need to read it like this, okay? So it is an exclamatory, so that's why I mark it E. If it is imperative, so you mark I am, and so on. Please complete this and then we discuss it. I don't think it really deserves a strong discussion. Revisiting the types of sentences according to the structure and the combination of clauses. We have simple sentences, compound sentences, complex sentences, and compound complex sentences. Remember that? I hope so. It was in the first video I did that at first because I thought it was the best place to fit them. Okay, let's see the example I'm providing. Musicians and singers travel often and may perform in different places the same day. What type of sentence is this? It is a long sentence, huh? It is a simple sentence. Why it is a simple sentence? You have one subject only, but you have two verbs. One subject is a compound subject. Compound subject is one subject. Musicians and singers. If I say musicians, it's also considered one subject. Okay? Travel often, one verb, and may perform another verb. You see, what happens is that after and, which is the coordinating conjunction, you don't have another subject. If you have another subject, then it is a compound sentence. If you only have one predicate, travel often, the coordinating conjunction or the connector, and then another verb, another action may perform in different places at the same time or the same day, it is a compound predicate. Since it doesn't have another subject after the connector, it is not a compound sentence. It is a simple sentence with a compound subject and a compound predicate. Two actions, two verbs, or more. You see? A compound sentence. I didn't provide an example here. How come? But anyways, let's see the examples they provide in the book. People often have said opinions about music. You can separate them with column, semicolon. Nevertheless, one should keep an open mind. Okay, one should keep an open mind. You see that we have a subject here, one, and we have another subject here, people. And the first one, different types of music can be fused, choose together. Ska combines rock and reggae. You see? So you have a semicolon, but you have ska, which is a subject, and different types of music, which is another subject. You need two subjects to make it a complete sentence. And if you have two subjects at the beginning, you can have a compound subject. Having two nouns, two names, or two pronouns doesn't mean that they are two subjects. They are one compound subject if you have two or more uh, together. Okay, an exercise they provide here is dark threatening clouds rolled overhead, yet there was no rain. Here they're asking you to identify the sentence by writing S for a simple sentence or C for a compound sentence. Dark threatening clouds. Dark and threatening are saying what type of clouds. Okay, rolled overhead. That's a verb. Dark threatening clouds is a subject. Rolled overhead is a predicate. Yet, coordinating conjunction, there was no rain. You see, there was no rain is a complete sentence with uh, the subject there. Was no rain. Rain is the subject here. So we have two subjects. We have two complete clauses. Because to have a complete clause, you need to have one subject. So number one is C, compound. You complete the other ones. There are some evaluation exercises here, and we have the complex and compound complex sentences. You know that to have a complex sentence is having a subordination. If you have subordination, it is a complex sentence. But if you have subordination and you have coordination two times, at least two times, it is compound complex sentences. Okay? A complex sentence has one main clause and one or more subordinate clauses. A compound complex sentence has two or more main clauses and at least one subordinate clause. You see? So you have coordination and subordination at the same time in the compound complex sentence. One example I provide is Billie Holiday, who lived from 1915 to 1959, grew up in a poor family and she became a famous jazz singer that inspired many generations of artists. Okay, you should have you could have stopped the sentence here, but I'm providing this clause in blue to show you how you can make sentences longer by adding more and more clauses. Okay, if you need to write longer sentences with more details. Okay, I'm providing this answer for the answer for the first exercise as always. Identify each sentence by writing CX for complex, CC for compound complex, and then write a subordinate clause from each sentence. That I didn't do, but I'm gonna tell you. When he was in the third grade, that's obviously the subordinate clause. Billy was energetic and friendly. Billy was energetic and friendly is obviously the independent clause. What type of clause is this? If there is subordination, complex. It is complex because there is subordination, one subordination. You have two clauses. One of them is a subordinate clause, which is the first one, which is an adverb. When he was in the third grade, an adverb clause of time. Billy was energetic and friendly. It is affecting the verb was that time, at that time. Okay, you continue with the other exercises and then we'll check later. Let's see one other exercise, and this one's gonna be the last one. Copy the following sentences and identify each sentence by writing S for simple, C for compound, CX for complex, and CC for compound complex. Underline each main clause once and each subordinate clause twice. A soda fountain was standard equipment in a drugstore when my dad was a boy. This is so easy, right? It is a complex sentence with a subordinate clause when my dad was a boy that you can place at the beginning here and separate with a comma. When my dad was a boy, a soda fountain was standard equipment in a drugstore. Okay, the same as the previous exercise, it is subordinate adverb clause of time. Okay, it is complex because there is subordination. Let's go over this real quick because I know I am fitting everything into a single video instead of making 5 different videos. Okay, we have sentence fragments, and that happens when we uh, write not using the not expressing the complete thought. That happens when we are uh, writing a noun phrase or maybe a noun clause and we don't complete the sentence. There's a couple of examples here. Daniel is on the basketball team. That's complete. But if I say uh, played for fun as a child, lacks the subject. Who played for fun as a child? Next, Daniel scoring more points than any other player. He lacks the complete predicate. Okay? Daniel was scoring more points than any other players. The verb is what they needed. The verb or the main the auxiliary verb. So if you omit some verb, some it is also uh, an incomplete sentence. Because she was taken out of the game. This is not a complete sentence. This is a subordinate clause, and so on. For run-on sentences, it is when we don't write the punctuation or we separate clauses with commas, not adding the connectors, the appropriate connectors. Okay, so one example here is meteorology is fascinating to me. I watch the Weather Channel every day. That's something we do very often in Spanish. But in English, we need to separate, to use the connectors to see how each clause relates to the other. So meteorology is fascinating to me and I watch the Weather Channel every day. Okay, that'll be correct. Another example, here it was they were missing the connector. In the other, meteorology is fascinating to me. I watch the Weather Channel every day. You can say so, and you need a comma. So I watch the. You see. Next, meteorology is fascinating to me, and I watch the Weather Channel every day. They need a comma here before and. I see this mistake very often. Remember that if you're using a conjunctive adverb instead of coordinating conjunction here, you should add a comma, a semicolon, and then a comma. Meteorology is fascinating to me, semicolon, therefore, comma. I watch the Weather Channel every day. Therefore, nonetheless, however, and so on. For because, one other thing you need to keep in mind, do not use comma before because in English, okay? You don't need the comma before because. What mistakes we can find here? Fragment or run-on sentences. I picked some violets. I like a spot of color in the house. So I say it is a run-on sentence uh, where you need to add the connector. Okay. I picked some violets because I like a spot of color in the house. Because I like a spot of color in the house is a subordinate clause. Okay, the connector was missing. Good. So you continue with the other exercises, right? Complete the post tests. And then after this, I think we're gonna be ready for final test. Thank you for watching this video, and you'll have the freedom to go back and see whatever thing you need to see in this video and ask any questions to uh, if you think you need to clear up something else. Thank you so much for watching.